Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Recently, as I've thought about, what am I going to do next? Where am I going to put my energies in life? I've come face to face with things I've struggled with for a long time. Things like, I'm not sure what kind of value I really bring to the table. Low self-esteem, feeling, imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough. And remembering that very often when other people tell me what I'm worth, or tell me what my purpose is in a transactional manner, whether it's in relationships or vocationally or what have you, that makes me very uncomfortable, doesn't feel right, doesn't feel very authentic. And so part of what I've been doing is trying to come up with what is my sense of purpose now. Man's search for meaning, that sort of stuff. It occurred to me today that I don't necessarily need to have a purpose. You don't necessarily need to have a purpose. That's something, though, that's been beaten into me, or that I've convinced myself over time that I need to have some kind of purpose. I need to have some kind of transactional value, if you will. There's a piece of literature that's very important to me, and one of the lines in it is we no longer, we stop trying to justify our existence. We no longer justify our existence. And that was a line that really puzzled me at first, years ago. And then it started to make a lot of sense, because for most of my life, I had tried to justify my existence to make mommy and daddy happy. If Ivan was smart, people were happy. The adults were happy. I'm trying to get the other kids to like me because I wasn't very good at that. Trying to work the hardest because I was creating a sense of value at the job. I was the go-to guy. I was the smart guy. I was the guy that would take all the extra projects on. I was justifying my own existence. And it took a long time to realize that I just had intrinsic value that wasn't transactional. It was good enough just to be me, and I didn't necessarily need to have value to you or fit into you, or conform to whatever you expected me to do for you. There's another line further on which talks about our real value is being ourselves, or in being ourselves. And that's something that I've thought on before, but it made a lot more sense today for whatever reason. I started to realize that I don't need to have a purpose to have intrinsic value. You don't need to have a purpose or define what your purpose is in order to have intrinsic value. You can just be you, just exist here. You have just as much right to be here as anybody else does, and you don't have to do anything to justify it. And that's one of those things that's revolutionary for me to think about or to try to accept. But you think about it, though, no other animal, no other creature or organism tries to figure out what's my purpose. And very often we don't try to put a purpose on anything else. I'm not trying to figure out what's the purpose of my cat. I can look and say, well, the function this cat might serve, or where they fit, the niche is, they're controlling the rodent population. But I don't say, well, that's their purpose. One of the dumbest things I've ever heard anybody say ever, which is really hard considering all the dumb stuff people say these days. But it's still got to be one of the top 10. This guy said, I don't see any reason for a potato to exist except for us as humans to eat. There's no other reason for a potato to exist. It's ridiculous. That's the stupidest idea. I think the potato would disagree. So none of the organisms, we don't have a purpose. I mean, I suppose we do to the genes as genetic transfer units, but that's a different video for another time. But, we're not looking for them to have a purpose, the other organisms. Why should we look to ourselves to have some kind of purpose to justify our existence? And, in relationships, it's the same thing. My partner, Sue, and I, we have the greatest relationship I've ever been in. And very often, we'll get together, and one of us is really knocked out and tired, and we'll say, well, I'm really sorry, I was boring tonight. And the other one will say, there's no need. You don't exist to entertain me. Susan doesn't have a purpose in my life, or doesn't have to have. Yes, do we fulfill certain needs in each other? Yes. We're supportive, and we make each other laugh a lot, and all those sorts of things. And I can go on. Not all of which are safe for work, but at the end of the day, we don't have to justify our existence to each other. We enjoy being together because we enjoy the other person. They don't have to have a purpose, and there's nothing transactional about it, which is a very cool thing. So it's an easy thing to say, and it's a very hard thing to internalize, in my experience, to realize that I don't have to have a purpose. We can just be here, and that's okay. You know what I mean?